you were first born, the doctor picked you up by your heels and gave you a slap across your you-know-what, and you took a great big breath and let out a lusty yell. And it's the best breath we ever took in our lives, and you know nobody told us how to do it. Then many times, when we grew up a little bit, they put a horn into our hands, and they said, take a deep breath, and when we did, we might just as well have been standing on our cotton picking heads, because that's the way we take the breath, upside down. Now, you are all older fellas here, but every time I go out to a high school or do a clinic or something like that, I usually say, how many of you kids have been talked to about breathing or have been taught how to breathe to play an instrument? And I usually get a bunch of hands, and so I pick out 2 of them, and I bring them up front, and I ask them to take some deep breaths with me. And when they do, I'm surprised their pants don't fall off. Because I'll show you what I mean. I take no chances. There's a lady here. But I say to them, take a deep breath, a breath big enough to play, say, 8 bars in one breath, and they go, see? Well, at the risk of boring you, I'll go through a little thing here about breathing, because I think it's so important, and I'll tell you why after we go through it. The lungs themselves can't breathe. You all know that, don't you? All they can do is hold air. We breathe with what's called the diaphragm. Now, this diaphragm stretches from side to side, front to back, extends up along the bottom ribs and up into the lung cavity, about like this. Now, it's controlled by the muscles that surround it, but we're not going to take an anatomy lesson. So for now, we'll say the diaphragm does this. When all of the air in your lungs is exhaled out of your lungs, this diaphragm looks something like an upside-down teacup. When you take a breath, the diaphragm moves down and flattens out. It creates a vacuum up here, and the air rushes into your lungs. When you exhale, it contracts and moves back up, forcing the air out of the lungs. Now, it stands to reason if it moves down and flattens out, it gets bigger around. And if it gets bigger around, it takes up more room. Well, if you take a breath like this, you're sucking in your stomach, cramping the diaphragm, which tries to push air out at the same time you're trying to take it in. It's almost like trying to swallow and spit at the same time. So what we have to do is, around this section here, is to expand, to give this diaphragm a chance to move down and flatten out. Now, I'll take a breath for you the right way. Now, I'll exaggerate it. You don't do it this much. Can you see? Now, you watch right around here. We start with our chest up, shoulders back. And you can't take a breath like this, because you're already up there and you can't go any higher. So now watch around here. Now, you didn't see my chest move up and down or my shoulders move up and down. We expand around here, but be careful when you breathe this way, that you don't push out here. Just because you get a bubble in the front doesn't mean you're breathing right. And we don't take a breath like this. So you expand around the middle to give this diaphragm some freedom of movement. And you shouldn't think about this only when you're playing the horn. You should think about it when you're peeling potatoes, or when you're laying down reading. If you're walking down the street, you pass the store window, look around, see if anybody's looking. Walk up to the window and go. We have to control the flow of air when we blow any instrument from the diaphragm. If we don't, we've got to control it someplace. You know where? Here. We close the throat for less air. We open it for more air. It's just like if I were talking loud and I want to talk soft, I talk like this. That's the sound you'll get when you play. If we control the flow of air from the diaphragm, we don't need any other control on it, so we play with a free, relaxed throat. Now, when we blow, we get a feeling around here of pressure in and up, forcing the air out of the lungs. But only as much pressure from here as we need for each note we're playing. You get too much here, you got to hold it back. Where? Here. So we only use as much pressure from here as we need for each note we're playing. Here's the next thing. When we do blow a horn, any horn, if you don't remember anything else, please try to remember this. We never blow to the horn or into the horn. We blow through the horn. Completely through the horn and out the bell. There ain't a doggone person sitting inside here listening to you. They're all out here. And that's where we play. And in the question of range, or in going after higher notes, don't play up for them. Play out for them. 99 times out of 100 on this instrument, if we play up for notes, we're going to pinch and squeeze here, thereby narrowing down the size of the sound. If we blow out for the notes, we eliminate this pinching and squeezing, and we keep the same big sound from the bottom to the top of the horn. You see, a G is not a fifth above a C. It's 5 feet further out in front of the horn. Now, if somebody can take a hunk of music, show it to you and say, well, here's a C and here's a G. The G is above the C. Say, you're absolutely right. But not if you lay it down like this and it's out in front of it. See, as far as I'm concerned, somebody asked me about warm-up later on, will you? But as far as I'm concerned, there are only 3 basic principles involved in playing any wind instrument. Take a breath the right way, push that breath completely through the instrument, and think musically. I believe if you'll remember these 3 basic principles at all times, that about 95% of all the little picky problems that keep popping up won't even appear. Take a breath the right way, push that breath completely through the horn, and think musically.